By now, Jintong had gnawed her way deep toward the gold-devouring immortal's vital core. Her small body was drenched in blood, and crimson flesh clogged the gaps between her teeth, making her look like a fiend born of slaughter. Just as she was about to tear through the final layer of tough membrane and force her way into its abdominal cavity, the surrounding muscles suddenly contracted inward. Vast surges of immortal spiritual power converged, trying to crush and bind her from all sides. Yet Jintong had already devoured an enormous amount of its flesh, and her aura had surged close to the mid-high zenith stage. With a ferocious roar, she resisted the tightening muscles, ripped apart the membrane, and plunged straight into the abdominal cavity. The gold-devouring immortal was both furious and helpless. With Jintong rampaging inside its body, it dared not unleash its full power for fear of injuring itself. Under normal circumstances, her intrusion would not have been dangerous at all. Its soul far surpassed Jintong's, and it should have been able to devour her soul directly and then digest her body with ease. However, its soul had been heavily drained while escaping from Hanli's spiritual sense cage, while Jintong only grew stronger the more she consumed. Now, it no longer had the confidence to overpower her soul. All it could do was endure and wait for its soul to recover. This bearable helplessness only fueled its rage. Its blazing gaze locked onto Hanli. If not for this detestable human, it would have long since hunted down its prey and wiped out the beast race. Instead, it had been trapped in an illusion for 20 years and pushed into unprecedented danger. All of this was because of him. In that instant, Hanli became its sole target. Hanli had already anticipated this turn. The moment the gold-devouring immortal regained clarity, he swallowed several pills, restoring his immortal spiritual power and stabilizing his spiritual sense. Suddenly, the golden radiance around the monster faded, replaced by a scorching surge that burst outward as wisps of white steam. Shrouded in the steam, its massive body became indistinct and blurred. Hanli activated his bright sight spirit eyes, but before he could peer through the haze, a powerful sense of danger surged within him. He dodged instinctively. Almost simultaneously, the gold-devouring immortal appeared, where he had stood just a breath earlier. A streak of translucent light swept toward him. Alarmed, Hanli unleashed his reversal true axis and vanished in a flash, narrowly evading the strike. Only then did he realize that his mantra-treasured axis had recovered somewhat. Joy flared in his heart. A spherical barrier of light erupted from his body, expanding into a vast time-spirit domain that enveloped the entire bottom of the ravine. As it swept over the gold-devouring immortal, an invisible force weighed down upon it, sharply slowing its movements. Compared to the mantra-treasured axis, the time-spirit domain covered a far wider area, but its restraining power was weaker. If Hanli were careless, the monster could still catch him in an instant. Moreover, he sensed that the mantra-treasured axis was not fully restored and could fail again at any time. He could only continue dodging while urging Jintong through their spiritual link to hurry. At the ravine's depths, two streaks of light, one azure, one golden, flashed incessantly, the latter chasing the former. Even with Mogwang's eyesight, it was difficult to track them. Suddenly, a thunderous crash echoed as the gold-devouring immortal slammed into a mountain face, triggering a massive avalanche. Hanli shot through the choking dust cloud and flew upward, landing on a stone platform jutting from the opposite cliff. The gold-devouring immortal's patience was finally exhausted. It let out a feral roar filled with fury and frustration, then ceased its pursuit and lay down upon the ground. Its wings trembled violently as the light around its body rapidly contracted. Even the scorching heat it emitted withdrew inward, forming a strange layer around it, neither fully gas nor light. As this substance gathered, waves of eerie energy rippled outward, and a deep sense of foreboding rose in Hanli's heart. Inside the creature's body, Jintong was tearing through its organs when she felt them begin to tremble violently. Some tissues disintegrated into gas and seeped outward, while the internal temperature soared. In moments, it felt like a blazing furnace. An oppressive pressure also swelled within the abdominal cavity, so immense that even Jintong felt fear. Is it going to self-detonate? The instant the thought arose, she shouted through their spiritual link, "Run, Uncle! It's going to self-detonate!" "Get out now, Jintong!" Hanli urged urgently. No, I'll see this through to the end, she replied without hesitation. Hanli clenched his teeth, then activated the reversal true axis and shot straight upward, Moguang close behind. They had barely begun ascending when a blinding explosion of white light erupted below. A deafening boom shook the heavens as devastating shockwaves slammed into both sides of the ravine. It was as if a second sun had risen from its depths, banishing all darkness and baleful chi in an instant. The ravine walls collapsed layer by layer, widening rapidly as falling rock was melted away by the scorching radiance. An enormous pillar of white light surged skyward, incinerating all baleful chi as it rose nearly 10,000 feet above the ravine's mouth. From within the pillar, a black humanoid figure was flung outward, limbs splayed like a broken kite. Its body was horribly charred, nearly vaporized. On its back clung another figure, curled into a ball and wrapped in azure light, seemingly untouched. After escaping the ravine, the two figures fled several kilometers away. They were none other than Han Li and Mo Guang. Hovering in midair, Han Li turned to Mo Guang's mangled form. "Are you all right?" A grin more hideous than any grimace twisted Mo Guang's unrecognizable face as he chuckled weakly. "Looks like you won another gamble, fellow Taoist Han." His voice was faint, his cheeks stripped to the bone, rows of exposed teeth presenting a chilling sight. The explosion had spread too quickly for escape. In that desperate moment, they had gambled, using the Grey Immortal's body as a shield, while Han Li slowed the blast with his time-spirit domain. They had only managed to flee a few hundred kilometers before the domain failed, and it was ultimately the Grey Immortal's body that saved them. Through their connection, Han Li sensed that Mo Guang was gravely injured, but not in mortal danger, and he marveled once again at the resilience of that body. At that moment, thunderous rumbling erupted below. The ground collapsed endlessly as the ravine continued to expand into a vast basin. The nearby valley where the tree demon resided also caved in, buried beneath the earth and drowned by spreading baleful chi. Panicked roars echoed briefly before falling silent. Mo Guang immediately dove into the rising baleful chi. As it poured into him, his skin began to regenerate. His internal injuries would take time, but his outer wounds slowly healed. Suddenly, Han Li's gaze snapped toward the distance. A massive shadow surged up from the clouds of dust and baleful chi. It was the gold-devouring immortal. Astonishingly, it pounced toward him once more, roaring with fury and disbelief. "Why are you still not dead?" Han Li cursed under his breath and fled, when Jintong's voice suddenly rang out in his mind. "Hold on just a bit longer, uncle. Once I sever the arteries leading to its heart, it'll..." Her voice cut off abruptly before she could finish. "What's wrong, Jintong?" Han Li asked anxiously through their spiritual connection, yet no reply came. Activating his bright sight spirit eyes, he turned back toward the gold-devouring immortal and saw that it had already descended to the ground, its massive form completely shrouded within rolling dust and baleful chi. At that moment, Taoist Shay, who had fled earlier, rushed back to Han Li's side. "Something's gone wrong on Jintong's end. I need to check on her," Han Li said quickly. "Brother Shay, please look after fellow Taoist Mo Guang for now." Taoist Shi agreed without hesitation, and Han Li plunged straight down into the collapsed ravine. Passing swiftly through the choking dust and sinister chi, he soon reached the gold-devouring immortal's body. It lay motionless upon the ground, covered by a thin, nearly transparent layer of light, yet Jintong was nowhere in sight. Were it not for the faint spiritual connection still linking them, Han Li might have believed Jintong had already fallen. Steadying his breathing, he swept his spiritual sense across the gold-devouring immortal and discovered that it was still brimming with vitality, its spiritual fluctuations unusually intense. Realization struck him at once. The gold-devouring immortal must have forcibly invaded Jintong's consciousness to devour her soul, driven to desperation as she attempted to sever the arteries near its heart. Inside Jintong's consciousness, two golden beetles were locked in a savage struggle. One was larger, yet its golden light was dull and unsteady, clearly not fully recovered. The other was smaller but radiant, glowing with brilliant golden light and benefiting from the home ground. Neither yielded, each intent only on annihilating the other. Ripping sounds echoed endlessly as they tore into one another. No blood flowed, Only wisps of misty golden light spilled forth from their wounds. The high zenith beetle lunged, but Jintong dodged, biting into its wing and tearing away a chunk before it could regain balance. Instantly, the larger beetle twisted around, ignoring its injury as it lunged straight for Jintong's head. Unable to evade, Jintong faced imminent decapitation. At that critical instant, a streak of translucent white light flashed through her consciousness like lightning, smashing into the high zenith beetle's head and knocking it away. At the same time, a piercing pain stabbed through Jintong's soul. Gritting her teeth, she suppressed the agony and surged forward, biting fiercely toward her opponent's head. Outside, Hunli sat cross-legged beside the gold-devouring immortal, eyes shut tight. Sensing Jintong's mortal peril, he once more invoked his spirit refinement technique, forcibly sending a thread of spiritual sense into her consciousness and saving her at the brink of disaster. The following day, around noon, a sharp cracking sound jolted Hanli from meditation. He glanced briefly at Mo Guang and Taoist Shi nearby, then looked toward the gold-devouring immortal. The translucent light covering its body had faded, and its vitality was draining rapidly. Moments later, Jintong flew out from the gash in the creature's body. A faint smile touched Hanli's face, but before he could speak, Jintong said coldly, "Please keep watch for me, uncle." Hanli frowned slightly at her distant tone, yet nodded. He, Taoist Shi and Mo Guang retreated several kilometers away, forming a loose triangle around Jintong and the corpse. Jintong glanced at them, then rose into the air above the body and slowly closed her eyes. With a wave of her hand, boundless golden light poured forth, swirling into a rapidly expanding vortex thousands of feet wide. Countless golden runes spun within, radiating violent, formidable law power as the gold-devouring immortal's body was slowly drawn inside. Jintong's eyes snapped open. The golden light around her intensified, growing denser and more solid. In an instant, origin chi from thousands of kilometers around surged wildly toward the vortex. The earth cracked open as spiritual power from underground spirit veins rushed upward, feeding into the whirlpool of light. Above it all, a massive 5-colored spirit cloud formed, lightning of 5 hues flashing incessantly within. Jintong's figure vanished inside the golden radiance, yet her aura continued to rise, steady and powerful. Hanli watched silently from the air. Mo Guang stood with hands clasped behind his back, expression unreadable, while Taoist Shi sat down to meditate, utterly indifferent. Xiao Bai hurried to Hanli's side, staring at the spirit cloud with naked envy. "She's breaking through again," Xiao Bai exclaimed. The vortex spun faster and faster, devouring the gold-devouring immortal's body bit by bit. Suddenly, it expanded violently as a blinding golden sphere appeared at its center, surrounded by countless runes. Large bulges formed on its surface as it trembled, and low, pained roars echoed from within. Jintong's voice. Hanli's brows knit tightly. At that moment, a giant golden beetle projection emerged within the vortex, identical to the slain gold-devouring immortal. It roamed the vortex, roaring with fury and hatred toward the golden sphere. Though Jintong destroyed its soul, its resentful intent remains, Mo Guang explained calmly. To fully absorb it, she must defeat that resentment. A thunderous roar answered him as a pillar of golden light burst forth from the sphere, revealing another beetle projection, Jintong herself. The two projections collided instantly, shockwaves booming as they clashed again and again. Jintong's projection was slightly smaller and steadily forced back. Seeing this, Xiao Bai cried out in alarm. "She's losing! Master, we must help her." "We can't," Hanli replied calmly. "This battle is hers alone." As if punctuating his words, Jintong's projection was blasted backward. Her opponent roared in triumph and lunged, massive limbs slashing down to tear her apart. At the last moment, Jintong twisted, slipping between the limbs and reappearing behind it in a blink. She locked her legs around the projection's body, immobilizing it, then slashed downward at its head. The enemy raised its own limbs to block, sparks flying as metal clashed. Madness flared in Jintong's eyes as she threw back her head and roared. Her limbs blazed with blinding golden light. With a deafening clang, she sliced through her opponent's defenses and severed its head in one brutal strike. The projection exploded into a sea of golden light, which Jintong immediately inhaled in a roaring torrent, drawing it all into herself. Golden radiance burst forth as the beetle projection formed by Jin Tong suddenly solidified, its outline sharpening before stretching and reshaping into a tall, slender humanoid figure. The instant this transformation completed, a terrifying pressure erupted from its body. No mere spiritual might, but an oppressive aura akin to that of a divine being gazing down upon mortals. Han Li and the others nearby were immediately engulfed. Xiao Bai suffered the worst, shrieking in agony as blood streamed from every orifice before it could endure no longer, reverting into a white jade pendant that snapped back onto Han Li's waist. Han Li himself felt as though a massive blow had struck his chest. His vision went black as he staggered backward nearly 20 steps before managing to steady himself. Taoist Xie had already retreated into Han Li's body for refuge, while Mo Guang, despite his grievous injuries, remained largely unaffected, once again revealing the terrifying resilience of his gray immortal physique. The golden humanoid hovered for only a few breaths before plunging back into the sphere of golden light. Instantly, the golden vortex swelled even larger, yawning open like a colossal maw. A tremendous suction force erupted, dragging the five-colored spirit cloud from the heavens. Like a bottomless abyss, the vortex slowly expanded as it devoured the cloud inch by inch. After nearly a quarter of an hour, the spirit cloud vanished completely, and only then did the vortex begin to contract. Moments later, it disappeared altogether, leaving behind a 10-foot-wide golden sphere suspended in the air, resembling an enormous golden egg. Han Li finally released a breath he had been holding, though the image of that terrifying golden figure still lingered in his mind. The golden sphere hovered silently, streaks of dazzling light rippling across its surface as fearsome aura fluctuations pulsed outward, as though something monstrous was being nurtured within. After a brief deliberation, Han Li flew closer. A streak of white light slipped from his sleeve and transformed into a small white flag, one of the immortal treasures he had obtained from Gongshuju. At his command, the flag swelled rapidly into a massive banner hundreds of feet tall. Boundless white mist surged forth, forming a cloud several acres wide that instantly enveloped the golden sphere. The cloud's concealment effect dulled the terrifying aura at once. "Let's leave for now," Han Li said. Just as he prepared to depart with the cloud and golden sphere, he abruptly halted. A white-robed young man stood not far ahead, having appeared without the slightest warning. He was strikingly handsome, seemingly in his 30s or 40s, with flowing black hair marked by a single lock of faintly shimmering gold. Neither Han Li's immense spiritual sense nor Mo Guang's awareness had detected his arrival. It was as if he had materialized from nothing. Though he radiated no overt aura, Han Li's instincts screamed danger, sensing unfathomable power. The man glanced calmly at Han Li and Mo Guang without announcing his purpose. After a moment of silence, Han Li clasped his hands and asked, "May I know your name, Senior?" The white-robed man merely smiled. "You did very well. Truly, you surprised me." Han Li's heart tightened. Those words made it clear the man had arrived long ago. Perhaps he had witnessed the entire battle with the gold-devouring immortal. A sudden realization struck Han Li. That voice? Were you the one who trapped the gold-devouring immortal for 20 years? "That's right." The man replied evenly. Han Li immediately bowed deeply. "Thank you for saving me in my time of need, Senior." Without those 20 years of confinement, he and Jintong would likely already be dead. "I acted at another's request," the man said indifferently. Han Li was taken aback. "I helped you to repay the debt you incurred by aiding Lear all those years ago. From this day on, all ties between you and her are severed." "Lair? Liu Lair?" Han Li asked urgently. "Is she with you? How is she?" "She is doing very well," the man replied coldly. "But your past connection ends here. You are not to meet her again." Han Li fell silent, then nodded. Though the man had not revealed his cultivation, Han Li was certain he stood at the great encompassment stage. Before such a being, resistance was impossible. As long as Liu Lair was safe, he could accept this. The man's expression softened slightly. "Also, you are forbidden from speaking of what happened here." Han Li nodded once more without hesitation. The white-robed man produced an azure jade slip and tossed it over. "This is a map. Leave this place at once and never return." He then glanced at Mo Guang with a peculiar look before vanishing as abruptly as he had appeared. Hanli swayed slightly, a bitter smile tugging at his lips. Human cultivators truly were unwelcome in the primordial land. If not for his past with Liu Lair, that man might have killed him outright. After a moment, Mo Guang said gravely, "That man felt even more terrifying than the high-zenith gold-devouring immortal. Could he be a great encompassment being?" Han Li did not answer. Instead, he steadied his breathing and infused his spiritual sense into the jade slip. To his delight, the map was extremely detailed, marking 4 vast forbidden territories belonging to 4 major races. The area he had passed through earlier lay within the Heavenly Fox race's domain. With this realization, Hanli understood the white-robed man was likely their patriarch. Since Liu Lair had been taken away by her own race, she must belong to the Heavenly Fox race as well, and thus her safety was assured. Beyond those territories, a relatively safe route leading to the Black Mountain Immortal region was clearly marked. After memorizing it, Hanli withdrew his spiritual sense. "What do we do now, fellow Taoist Han?" Mo Guang asked. "We're clearly unwelcome. Let's leave before we're forced out," Han Li replied. He summoned the green jade flying carriage and formed a hand seal. The white cloud rapidly condensed into a dense mist, carrying the golden sphere that contained Jin Tong onto the carriage. "Do you happen to have a yin attribute spirit beast pouch?" Mo Guang suddenly asked. Han Li paused, then searched his belongings and produced a black spirit beast pouch he had obtained from Q Ling, handing it over. "Thank you. Please wait a moment," Mo Guang said, flying down into the ravine. What remained below was now a vast crater, riddled with holes and containing only traces of the baleful qi that once filled it. Forming a hand seal, Mo Guang activated the pouch. A powerful suction force erupted, drawing the remaining baleful qi upward in a pillar of black mist. In short order, it was all absorbed. The pouch swelled, liquid sounds echoing from within, its weight increasing to over 100 kilograms, dense baleful qi seething inside. Mo Guang beamed with satisfaction, stowed the pouch away, and returned to the carriage. Han Li glanced at him but said nothing. With a sweep of his sleeve, he summoned Taoist Shay. "Follow this route, Brother Shay," he said, handing over the jade slip. Taoist Shay examined it briefly, then urged the carriage forward, which shot off as a streak of green light. As the scenery rushed past, Han Li sat down and turned his attention inward. Of his 107 opened immortal acupoints, most had been formed through the profound baleful spirit arts and were filled with varying amounts of baleful qi. Those opened within the ravine were especially saturated. Han Li sighed inwardly. Though this art had allowed him to advance rapidly, it would likely make breaking through to the high zenith stage exceedingly difficult. The 5th decay awaited, and this baleful qi would become a grave obstacle. Shaking his head to dispel the thought, Han Li closed his eyes and entered meditation, focusing on healing the injuries left behind by the fierce battle. Somewhere within the vast true immortal realm, a silver palace hovered serenely inside a radiant golden expanse. 4 or 5 figures sat upon a raised platform within, their forms shrouded in layered spiritual light of differing hues, faces hidden as they conversed in low voices. "Fellow Taoist Chiang, you've been in our immortal prison for quite some time now. How do you find it?" asked a figure cloaked in white radiance. The one addressed was wrapped in golden light, his features indistinct yet youthful. He smiled faintly. "Everything here has been excellent. Our clans have always shared close ties, and you've just broken through to the late Golden Immortal stage," the white-robed figure continued. "If you wish to rest and consolidate your cultivation, you need only say the word. I can request an exemption from missions on your behalf." "My thanks, fellow Taoist Chuan, but my cultivation is already stable. No special arrangements are needed," the golden figure replied calmly. "As expected of a sword prodigy," praised another figure enveloped in red light. "Back when you first entered the immortal prison, you were already capable of slaying mid-golden immortals of the reincarnation palace while only at the early stage yourself. With your current progress, your future knows no bounds." "You flatter me, fellow Taoist D. I merely seized a fortunate opportunity," the golden figure said, then shifted the topic. "By the way, why is fellow Taoist Gongshu absent?" "One of Gongshu Tian's close clansmen died years ago in the northern glacial immortal region," the red-lit figure explained. "He has long wished to hunt down the culprit, but approval was never granted. Recently, the supervisory heavenly mirror detected someone in the primordial land between the northern glacial and Black Mountain immortal regions who appears to have mastered the fourth level of the spirit refinement technique. Gong Tian volunteered to investigate. The fourth level, the white-robed figure said grimly. Those who reach that stage are usually core members of the Reincarnation Palace. When did this occur? I heard nothing of it. It was not long ago. You were all away on missions at the time, the red-lit figure replied. The primordial land is treacherous, the golden figure said slowly. The primordial races harbor deep resentment toward human cultivators, especially those of the heavenly court. An investigation there will not be simple. Indeed, Gong Tian will likely return empty-handed, the red-lit figure said indifferently, while the man in golden light fell into silent contemplation. Nearly a year passed in the blink of an eye. A streak of green light shot across the sky above a desolate region of the primordial land. Within it was a green flying carriage upon which Han Li sat in silent cultivation. A white cloud hovered before him. After some time, the golden light around his body faded, and he opened his eyes. His injuries were fully healed, and his spiritual sense had completely recovered. He glanced toward the white cloud ahead. Jintong showed no sign of emerging from the golden sphere. Han Li frowned briefly, then relaxed. Having devoured a late, high-zenith gold-devouring immortal, Jintong's long slumber was only natural. With the map from the heavenly fox race patriarch, their journey had been smooth. His gaze shifted to Mo Guang and Xiao Bai. Xiao Bai lay curled in a corner, sleeping soundly. Mo Guang sat cross-legged, black light swirling around him as he cradled the black spirit beast pouch, wisps of baleful qi flowing into his body. Han Li's eyes flickered with curiosity. Though Mo Guang was cultivating with baleful qi, the fluctuations were exceedingly faint. Now inhabiting the body of a powerful gray immortal, his aura should have been far more pronounced. Sensing Han Li's scrutiny, Mo Guang halted his cultivation and asked, "Is something the matter, fellow Taoist Han?" Han Li noticed that Mo Guang's pupils were closer to human black than the gray of a gray immortal. "Your baleful qi aura is extremely faint. Have you concealed it with a secret technique?" "I haven't used any such technique," Mo Guang replied, then paused as he sensed his own condition. Surprise crossed his face. How could this be? "If you did nothing, why do you seem no different from an ordinary person?" Han Li asked. "Now that you mention it, I feel no discomfort at all," Mo Guang said after inspecting his dantian. "This must be due to a strange vortex formed after you fed me that pill." "The origin void pill?" Han Li asked. "Yes, the vortex conceals baleful qi. I hadn't noticed this effect until now," Mo Guang replied, then added, "It isn't permanent. It's slowly dissipating and may last only several years, perhaps a dozen at most." Han Li nodded thoughtfully. It seemed the pill's true purpose was not merely to awaken a gray immortal's soul, but to allow them to adapt to the true Immortal Realm's origin qi while suppressing baleful qi. If they were to travel other immortal regions, such pills would be essential. Fortunately, he possessed a large quantity of black marrow crystals from the gray immortal's storage. Key ingredients for refining origin void pills. The remaining materials were common enough to purchase from the Reincarnation Palace. Han Li summoned his Reincarnation Palace mask and posted rewards for the ingredients, then withdrew a black marrow crystal to inspect it. Within, wisps of baleful qi swirled with astonishing purity. These crystals far surpassed those Worm 3 had given him, and using them would require adjustments and refinement. As these thoughts formed, the baleful qi within Han Li's immortal acupoints suddenly surged into chaos. His body shuddered as ink-black baleful qi burst forth, expanding violently and filling the area within several hundred feet. His eyes glowed crimson, his presence transforming into that of a fearsome, baleful deity. The others aboard the carriage were instantly engulfed. The carriage halted abruptly as Han Li rose and commanded, "Stay here. Do not follow me." He shot downward toward a mountain range rich in spiritual qi. Demon beasts scattered in terror before his aura. Han Li plunged into a canyon and smashed a massive hole into the cliff with a single punch, then entered and hastily set up restrictions before sitting cross-legged. Golden light enveloped his body, yet baleful qi continued to surge, growing ever denser. "What's happening to Master?" Xiao Bai asked in shock. It's the fifth decay, the baleful decay, Mo Guang replied solemnly. Taoist Shay guided the carriage down into the canyon, stopping far from the cave. Master has only just reached the peak of the golden immortal stage. How could the baleful decay strike so soon? Xiaobai asked grimly. He used baleful qi to forcibly open his immortal acupoints, Mo Guang explained. Too much accumulated within him, triggering the decay early. The baleful decay is the final and most terrifying hurdle before the high zenith stage, Xiaobai said quietly. I've seen countless cultivators lose their minds and die from backlash. Master is completely unprepared. His voice fell silent. Mo Guang and Daoist Shi stood without words, gazing toward the distant cave. Within the cave, Han Li sat cross-legged upon the ground, fully immersed in circulation. The mantra axis scripture surged through him at full force, his mantra-treasured axis manifesting behind his back as rippling golden radiance spread outward. Pure time law power flowed endlessly, wrapping his body like a divine cocoon. Han Li knew this moment had come. The fifth decay, baleful decay, had descended. Because of the extreme measures he had taken within the ravine, his cultivation had soared far beyond expectation. The fourth decay that plagued ordinary golden immortals had been bypassed, yet now, standing only a step from the high zenith stage, the fifth decay could no longer be avoided. Its premature arrival stemmed from his cultivation of the profound baleful spirit arts and his advancement to the fourth level of the spirit refinement technique. Though he had prepared himself mentally, the sudden eruption still caught him unguarded. There was no retreat. He steadied his heart and faced it directly. Unlike the acupoint decay of the past, baleful decay erupted with terrifying violence. Dormant baleful qi within his body surged awake, crashing relentlessly against his consciousness. At the same time, dozens of immortal acupoints containing baleful qi were triggered, their contents seeping outward. A savage, uncontrollable aggression swelled within him, threatening madness, kept at bay only by his iron will. Above the cave, dark clouds gathered as indistinct crimson shadows flitted within them amid ghostly wails. Plants within hundreds of kilometers withered instantly, the land and stone turning ashen gray. A place once rich with spiritual qi was transformed into a hellscape in the blink of an eye. Black spots appeared across Han Li's body, spreading steadily as wisps of dark light tainted his spiritual sense. Crimson radiance flared in his eyes, bloodlust surging like a tide. With a low roar, he formed hand seals, summoning thick arcs of divine devilbane lightning amid dull thunder. Immortal treasures responded as well, releasing streams of spiritual light. Yet the baleful qi was too fierce. The lightning was extinguished like candle flames, and the immortal treasure's light faded rapidly, leaving only their innate law power to resist. Before that too was crushed. In the end, only his time law power stood firm. Unsurprised, Han Li continued forming seals. The mantra-treasured axis spun rapidly, pouring forth time law power to restrain the raging qi. Though the baleful qi roared violently, the time law remained steadfast, granting him momentary relief. He knew well the nature of this decay. Sudden, ferocious, unlike the subtle erosions before. Countless cultivators lost their sanity at its onset, their bodies and nascent souls detonating soon after. Without one of the three paramount laws, he too might have fallen at the first step. Yet the danger remained. This baleful qi originated from within his own body and immortal acupoints. Even under suppression, it continued seeping into flesh and mind. The black stain spread to nearly half his body, his eyes glowing ever deeper crimson. Suppressing his violent thoughts with the spirit refinement technique, Han Li swept his sleeve and summoned a white jade box sealed by a silver talisman pulsing with law fluctuations. An incantation rang out. The talisman ignited and vanished. The box sprang open, revealing a long-incised silver pill radiating astonishing medicinal fragrance. A high zenith pill. Gratitude welled within him. Had he not obtained 3 such pills from the infernal frost immortal manor, he would be helpless now. He swallowed it without hesitation and refined it with immortal power. Silver radiance flared violently, scorching heat striking his lower abdomen like a blazing orb. Enduring the pain, he continued refining. Streams of warmth soon flowed through his body, dissolving baleful qi wherever they passed, though their power diminished with each encounter. The crimson glow in his eyes halted, then slowly faded. The black spots began to recede. Joy flickered within him as he continued his seals. Using the pill's power to counter decay, silver light enveloped him, intertwining with the golden glow, releasing a peculiar fragrance that drifted far beyond the cave. Masters refining the baleful chi already? Did he prepare in advance? Xiaobai exclaimed from afar. Moguang merely watched in silence, surprise flickering across his face. Daoist Shi guided the flying carriage closer, then halted. With no response forthcoming, Xiaobai lay back down. A year passed like flowing water. Most of the baleful chi had been expelled, leaving only faint traces upon Hanli's body. His consciousness was nearly cleansed, but the high zenith pill was fully refined. As its warmth faded, the remaining baleful chi stirred once more. Alarmed, Hanli summoned another jade box and swallowed a second high zenith pill without delay. Warm streams surged again, erasing the last remnants of surface baleful chi. The black spots vanished, his skin turning jade-like and translucent, bones faintly visible beneath. Yet his expression remained solemn. The decay was not yet overcome. Of his 107 opened immortal acupoints, 71 had been forcibly opened using baleful chi. Though his body was cleansed, the baleful chi embedded within those acupoints remained, forming a barrier to his advance toward the high zenith stage. Fortunately, most of the second pill's medicinal power persisted, and he still possessed a third, even stronger pill. Taking a steady breath, Hanli directed the remaining warmth toward his immortal acupoints. The baleful chi within reacted violently, but showed no sign of retreat, rooted deep within the acupoints themselves. His heart sank slightly. Changing tactics, he wrapped the baleful chi in medicinal power and gnawed at it inch by inch. Months slipped by. His composure gradually eroded. Though the baleful chi within the acupoints dimmed slightly, not a single one of the 71 had been fully cleansed. Cold resolve flashed through Hanli's eyes as he clenched his fists. At that moment, a dull thud echoed from within. The second high zenith pill was fully refined. The warmth withdrew, and the baleful chi flared once more, threatening resurgence after its long suppression.